Welcome back to Power in Politics and the Power Panel. Melissa Lantsman, Brad Levine, Yolande James, and John Paul Tasker. A sudden coming together of people of all political stripes on Twitter over a Canadian Press story by Mia Rabson that reveals some online and now in-person verbal abuse against Minister Catherine McKenna. That's led to her having to have personal protection at times. She was confronted outside a movie theater when she was walking with her kids. A man pulled a car up slowly, stopping beside them, rolled down his window and yelled, "F you, Climate Barbie." The story got a lot of online traction with politicians and staffers of all stripes tweeting their sympathy and condemning the actions. Andrew Scheer's Director of Communications, Brock Harrison, was frank. "This makes me sick," he tweeted. "Control yourselves, you parasites." And NDP leader Jagmeet Singh also expressed his concern. "Women in politics," he wrote, "should not have to endure this kind of harassment online or in person. It is totally unacceptable, and I strongly condemn it, as should all leaders." Yolande, I'll start with you. I guess when you read that someone actually approached her in person, that she needs personal detail, what was your reaction?
Oh, it's awful. Not only for her as an individual, but for the members of her family, her children. Unacceptable and really scary. And I am always upset, and it's disappointing that unfortunately we've come to this. And every politician leader that is denounced it is the absolute right thing to do. We have to be able to set the tone, whether it's in the media, whether it's leader of parties or all candidates, in terms of what's acceptable and what is not. And this can't be. We're going to be heading into a campaign that is going to be very contentious, but it has to be on the issues. It's difficult because, I mean, whether it's been what's happening in the States or even around the world in our discourse now, the allowing for personal attacks is really disheartening, and I think we've got to be able to pull back and bring back civility to the way that we have debates, but it's hard to do so when we're so polarized and we don't encourage common ground, and it's not taking us to a very good place.
Is there something different, Brad, this time around? I mean, campaigns are often, not the most pleasant of experiences. There is ramped up rhetoric. Is there something different this time around that it's sort of reaching this new level?
Well, one observation I had, and when the question becomes why are so many folks from all the different parties kind of coming out and condemning this behavior, rightfully so, why is that? Why is there kind of almost a rallying point around this one? And I think it has to do with the fact that all of the parties are hearing increasingly stories from their own members and elected officials that it's happening to them on a severe basis. And then when you see it from somebody else in another party, you become all the more ready to jump in to condemn that behavior. Whereas if it's a policy difference or something of a minor nature, you might kind of let that go and let the other folks work it through. Rachel Notley, the former Premier of Alberta, and Shannon Phillips, former Environment Minister of that province, it was front page news how much attack they came under on a daily basis. I just finished Libby Davies' book, former Member of Parliament for Vancouver East. She wrote a autobiography on her time in Parliament Hill. She talks about sexism and the verbal abuse that female MPs from all parties took, going back a couple of decades. This is not a new phenomenon, but I think the reason why people are reaching out to condemn it so across party lines is because we keep hearing more and more of this unacceptable behavior from our own folks in our own parties, and people are just saying we have to speak out. We have to do our best to stop this behavior because it's unacceptable in this day and age.
Is it also amplified, Melissa, on social media? I mean, I know when I used to tweet more often, it would be like reactions to anything to do, tweets of even video of Catherine McKenna from the show. Like the reaction is. It's just like too much to even read, to be honest with you.
And I'm sure that you get your fair share of it too. This doesn't,
Yeah, I put on the quality control so I don't read it.
Absolutely, this isn't just politicians, but the more it's written about, and frankly, the more that party leaders recognize it. I don't think there's anybody who would sort of go into the personal attacks, and I don't think that there's any party leader that would say that it's okay. And the more that we're talking about it, and that we're reading about it, and that we realize that it's happening, I think the more unacceptable it becomes, and it's unacceptable in corporate boardrooms, and it should be unacceptable in politics.
Is there a way to stifle it, do you think? I mean, they're all right. Like, it is the one thing that you actually hear everybody speak out on, and they're pretty united on.
You know what? I'd like to see some accountability from the social media sites that actually run these networks. I mean, why is Twitter and Facebook, although they say they're doing stuff on this issue, it doesn't seem to be making
Well, if you
much of
flag it, I mean, you have to flag it,
Yeah.
essentially, and then there is a process, and many times you are successful, but it is a process.
Yeah,
right?
like I know with even our own website, CBCNews.ca, we pay moderators to sort through the comments because they've been so nasty over the years and particularly racist. And we pay people to go through it and to flag this content to get it off our platform. We don't want to be responsible for having this up there. You'd think it might come to that point with Twitter and Facebook. If they're going to have these multi-billion-dollar corporations with tens of thousands of users on them, they're going to have to pay to make the platforms more safe, especially for female politicians like Catherine McKenna, who's been getting it constantly since she was elected. It's also totally surprising to me that, you know, a woman who lives, works, and represents Ottawa in Parliament, you know, a place where, you know, people are pretty pro-climate action here. She's facing this sort of vitriol even on the relatively progressive streets of Ottawa. I can only imagine what it might be like elsewhere. I think that it's really tough out there right now to be a woman in politics, especially one who's taken such a difficult stand on some really important national issues like natural resources and energy. Obviously, those issues have been really front of mind for many people in Western Canada right now, where they're really battling some tough times. It's really difficult.
I mean, she heads up Yolande. I mean, she's the face of, yes, an issue that is they have taken a certain position on that a lot of people don't agree with. I think that's okay that people can disagree about that kind of thing. It's for some reason that you know, it has been elevated to a level. I mean, the fact that she requires personal detail to deal with it, and like Brad said, so did Rachel. I mean, Rachel Knott was premier, but they had, I think, more security threats. I remember reading an article, like very, very specific security threats to her. There's something there as well.
Of course there's something there. I mean, I would imagine that she would even expect to be taken to task on her positions. But when you're coming to personal attacks and threatening her and her family, I will completely agree with what JP was saying with respect to accountability. Sometimes I just wonder, what is it going to take for us to act a lot quicker? Now she's got security detail, which is a very a good thing under the circumstances that she's being protected. But I really find, in the name of liberty of expression or your right to speak, and I'm not trying to mute people from expressing their opinions, but the line, in my opinion, on a number of occasions, online anyway, and in person, has certainly been passed in terms of not just expressing an opinion, but literally threatening elected officials, especially women. And there needs to be accountability. You can't just sit behind your keyboard in the name of anonymity and say things and there not be any accountability for it. We've got to be able to rein that in.
For sure. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video. Thanks for watching.